session, it is a great honor for me to introduce some friends of mine to you. My friends Lance and Tammy Weiland are joining us today for this next session. And Lance is the CEO of Johnstone Supply Company in Denver and Colorado Springs. They've got 2 locations. Johnstone Supply is a Colorado company founded in 1961, and it's comprised of it's like a HVAC company. So it converted to a national cooperative of independent HVAC/R wholesalers in 1982. It's grown to about 120 members and has more than 400 stores in North America. So Lance and Tammy have spent about 30 years growing their business into one of the top HVAC suppliers in the nation. And they're also the founders of a Nashville-based company called We Rock Entertainment, which is a ministry-minded artist management organization that they started in 2014 out of their passion to support Christian creatives. They also have their own state-of-the-art studio in the Nashville area. So I'd just like to invite all of you to give a warm welcome to my friends Lance and Tammy Weiland. Lance and Tammy, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Hi, Tammy. Okay, guys, let's just dive right in. Give us a little bit of history and background. So talk to us about how long you guys have been married.
Well, first, I want to point out that I'm actually not the CEO of Johnstone Supply. I've got to give that credit to my sister, Carla.
That's great.
Partners have been, it was actually started by my dad in 1961. And back then it was a franchise and then converted to a cooperative in 1982. My sister and I took it over probably officially in about 1995. And it's just her and I now. But her being the oldest and wisest of the 2, she runs primarily the Denver location, and I've overseen the Colorado Springs location. And for both locations, I've been kind of behind the scenes, pulling the behind the curtain, pulling the knobs and levers and such through the years. But it's been we change roles based on what's going on. But really got to give some credit to Carla.
I'm so glad you did that, Lance. Thanks for straightening us out on that bio. Always weird when you get a bio that is like not exactly right. So thanks for helping us understand the actuals and for pointing out that Carla is doing such an awesome job too. So, okay, so let's dig down into you and Tammy just a little bit in your relationship. How long have you guys been married?
It's 1988, so it's been a minute.
32.
Oh, that's great. Actually, tell me about how you met each other.
Oh, well, this is a really long time ago. We grew up in Fort Lupton, Colorado, small rural town. And I was actually friends with Lance's sister. And it was a high school crush, and dated through school and got married as soon as we got out of high school. So
I tell people my sister brought her home for me.
That's right. He owes his sister a lot.
That's right.
That's great. So you guys maybe graduated in 1987, got married in 1988, or how did that work?
In 85.
85 and Tammy in 87. And then
got married in 88.
June of 88. Yep.
That's perfect.
First child in November of 89.
Yep.
No kidding. So you guys waited a long time. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I were on the 5-year plan to have kids, and it took us about 5 months to find out that we were going to have our first son. So, yep, that sounds familiar when I hear your story.
Yeah.
How many kids do you guys have and grandkids?
We have 5 children. We have 3 biological children and 2 adopted sons. And we have 2 grandchildren. The newest one, a grandson just born 3 weeks ago yesterday.
Oh, congratulations, you guys. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love that we share in common. We had the privilege of adopting our youngest son, and I love that your adoption story and all of that stuff too is so beautiful. So thank you for doing that. And I know that it's a weird thing to consider that, biological kids have a place in our hearts, but you kind of wonder when you get into it, will adopted kids have the same place? And man, they do. They just fill your heart up so much. It's beautiful. Okay, so talk to me about how many businesses you guys have started over the years. I'm just curious about this because you're kind of serial entrepreneurs. And so, how many businesses have you started?
Oh man, I guess I've lost count, but started way back. Oh gosh, probably the lawn mowing business back in eighth grade with my good buddy Rob Simroska.
And they were also DJs together.
DJs,
there was
yeah.
a DJ business.
Let's see. Was originally going to go into law enforcement. They got pulled into the family business. My dad was an entrepreneur, and my mom's family was musicians. So I always had a great passion for music.
And plumbers. So they did the entrepreneur thing too.
But, gosh, so Johnstone Supply got pulled into that in 85,
when you
October
graduated.
of 85. Yep. So it's been, 35 years this month. Yeah, crazy. Let's see. Through that, I started up some side hustles, was doing cell phones, selling cell phones over the counter at Johnstone. That evolved into, I guess many years later, evolved into a Nextel service center in our Colorado Springs location. And that became so busy that we spun it off into a separate business.
So there's been a lot.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
And right now we have ProSec, which got neglected in the bio.
ProSec integration. In fact, they're one of the sponsors for the event. And that happens to be a partnership with Rob Simroska and myself as well.
Great family friend and brother by another mother. So we got a few going on.
Yeah. And then, of course, We Rock Entertainment. And even that, we kind of have a couple of things going on, as you know. Primarily, we do artist management. And then out of the need to help our artists create on a low budget, we ended up purchasing a recording studio, just south of Nashville. We were doing label services as needed as well for artists that aren't signed with a label.
Okay, that's amazing. So if you're going to take a rough crack at how many businesses you've started, would it be 10, 20, 50, 90?
I would say it's probably in the 15 to 20.
Yep, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Not all.
Yeah. So has business just been a breeze for you guys, or have you hit some significant bumps in the road along the way?
Not a breeze at all, but
had some failures, had some wins.
But we're blessed to have some great successes along the way.
Yep. You know, one of the things that the CCBA crew was thinking about is just the sense that in business, sometimes you sit there and wonder, is God with me? I mean, is he around here? Sometimes you feel close to God. Sometimes you can't hear his voice. It feels like he's distant and all that stuff. And sometimes when a difficult season in business happens to kind of correspond with a time when you don't feel particularly close to God, that can be kind of disorienting. I'm just curious, do you guys have a difficult time that comes to mind that you've encountered where you might have felt like, man, where is God in all of this stuff? And I'd be curious to hear how God kind of helped you through it.
We've had a couple of those. Probably the most recent one was in 2016 when we started. Lance, a little bit before that, had started into the music management and was traveling quite a bit to Tennessee. And he really just felt like to grow the business that God put it on his heart that he needed to be in Tennessee to help that happen. Well, at the same time, God had put on our hearts to take on our two adoptive sons. And so at that point, we had gone from empty nesters to a freshman or a sophomore in high school in the house that was new to living with us and in our family. And it just was not, we were not in a position for both of us to move to Tennessee. And so for about a year, he lived in Tennessee and I lived in Colorado, and we parented and it was just a tough season of knowing what God really wanted us to do because we felt like there were two really big things that we were supposed to be doing, but they didn't really work well timing wise with each other. And so that was really a hard season of, I would have parenting challenges and call him upset and he wouldn't be available. He'd be in a meeting or he just would feel bad that he couldn't be home, to assist with some things. And it was a trying year.
Rough. Yeah.
It was a not, probably not one of my favorite years. And he actually ended up, after that year, we continued the music business, but he really, God showed us that he needed to be in Colorado. And so we did that and got our son through high school. And as he went away to college, it freed us up to, return to Tennessee and continue on the mission that we had here.
Excuse me. That's those seasons are really tough of being apart and juggling all of that different stuff. What did you sense that, like, what part did God play in helping you through that? Was it daily encouragements? Was it just you guys and your communication? What part did God play in helping you through that season?
Yeah, I think just continued affirmations that this was our calling.
I can't tell you how many times I would say or pray to God, God, is this what we're supposed to be doing? Maybe it's time to shut the door. And about the time I'd be trying to maybe be like, come on, God, let's shut that door. Yeah. He'd open another one, or something would happen to just continue to show us that, he was with us and on that path. Maybe even when I didn't want him to be. Yeah. I wanted him to be like, nope, we're supposed to stop now. let's just put this away.
Those times are hilarious when you're like, okay, Lord, just help me out by stopping this business. And he's like, boom, open door. That is hilarious and frustrating. I've encountered that same thing.
Yeah, rough moments. And at times that, I was at my lowest and about to throw in the towel, something would happen. And, that affirmed that, that was our calling and that this is what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right. That's like going fishing. You're about ready to just say, all right, I'm out of here. And then you get that little bite on the end of the pole. It's like, oh, I'm back in. I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's more like fishing with no bait.
I was just in Alaska a few weeks ago, enjoying a fabulous fishing trip. And it was right on the tail end of a salmon run. And there was actually this treble hook that you could throw in. And all these fish are jammed into this mouth of this river, these red salmon. You could actually chuck it across the water, your treble hook, and just yank hard, and you'd snag a fish. We caught a bunch of fish that way. I'd never tried that before. That's the only time I've actually caught a fish without using bait. Oh, wow. But
it is possible.
It's possible, I guess, but just not probable or the best practice.
There are a lot that I feel like we don't have the appropriate bait, but and ill prepared, but yeah, God provides.
Yeah, that's great. So you guys, how many people currently work at Johnstone Supply Stores at your two locations?
Gosh, 60, I'm guessing 62, 63 people between the two.
And then Amazing. At ProSec, we probably have another
13, 14 people at ProSec.
A couple here in Tennessee.
Amazing. So when we were talking offline 2 days ago, you had mentioned that layoffs at Johnstone had not happened in the last 60 years, I want to say. Did I hear that correctly?
We had to lay people off because of an economic downturn.
That is mind-blowing. Over multiple recessions, economic downturns, what do you think are a couple of keys that made that possible?
Well, I think we evolved with the times and adapted to the needs of the market. We didn't have a lot of debt, so we had cash flow to keep us going. And we walked in faith. I mean, we just marched on and adapted to the needs.
Didn't react out of fear.
Yeah, didn't react out of fear. And through any challenges, and even especially COVID, including COVID, there are opportunities. And we were able to realize the opportunities. We had the cash to invest in more infrastructure. A lot of times our competitors would lay people off and we'd pick them up. And so we, quite often we would grow through those seasons, and we were blessed.
Okay, so what's your perspective on business debt and how to manage that while scaling and all that stuff? I'm just curious about that, because I think when we were talking offline, you had mentioned that Lance's dad had that Germanic perspective of no, the business does not have any debt and all that stuff. I'm just curious about your perspective on how you guys manage that in your businesses.
We did not like debt at all. We rented the space from, since day one, 1961 in Denver until probably, I guess it was about 2004 when we finally built our own building. And this was after he had passed, but I'm sure it would have killed him through the process. But he was big on cash is king, and we had no debt until that, and that was a little trying on us. And that's kind of one neat aspect of the partnership with my sister and I, is I tend to be more the bigger risk taker, and she tends to be the one holding back the reins and keeping things in check. So it's been a good balance. But yeah, we've taken risks, and that was the only time that we had accrued any debt.
That's amazing.
And it's important that you maintain your cash flow. We lived very modestly. Mm-hmm. And kept the cash in the business, because when there are opportunities, whether it be, inventory, specials or whatever, inventory specials or people to hire or needed to grow the building or physical infrastructure, then we'd have the cash to do that. We're able to capitalize on opportunities.
That's amazing. Has there been a time, I know that you mentioned 2016 was a difficult season for you guys, really difficult season. Has there been a time in your business where you're like, man, I just don't know where God is in this?
Well, just us maybe personally getting into the business. Lance's parents had started this business in the early 60s, and his dad was of the generation, as Lance and I were getting ready to get married, and Lance was trying to decide what he wanted to do in life, and his dad was a little bit of that, you're going into the business, that's not really negotiable.
And an option.
Yeah, I mean, kids today wouldn't know what to do, because we were kind of told what we were going to do. And we really had to pray about that and decide, is that what we wanted to do? Did he want to go his own path? And to we just really felt like God told us that, we should honor his parents and what they had done. And, and now we look back in hindsight, I said, if Lance had gone into a career in law enforcement, I just don't know where we would have been. And in the state of the world. And, I think that even though at the time when we were young, we thought it was his dad pushing a plan, I think it was really God was in that plan. Mm-hmm. And then the same when we lost his parents and had to make that transition, and his parents both died very young. They were separately, but neither one made it to 70. And so we lost his parents young, and his dad left huge shoes to fill, and so did his mother, and just kind of, we lost his mom in 2009. So we were just after the big '08 fall and trying to keep our businesses afloat and how that structure would work. And then Lance was thrust into, executing his mom's estate after a big loss. And there's just been times, we've been down on our roof of our building, shoveling hail off of it in the middle of the night, because you think the roof's going to collapse if we don't get snow off or the hail off. And, you just say a lot of prayers deep in the night that God's got a plan.
On that point, there's how difficulties and trials have
Oh, he froze.
that are going through difficulties and trials. We
lost part of your question, Dave. You had froze partway through.
Am I back now?
You're back.
Okay, great. Okay, so I was just saying that difficulties and trials have a tendency to provide tremendous opportunities for growth. And I'm just curious, as you kind of reflect back on a couple of times that you've encountered difficulty or trials, what you've learned, what would you say to somebody that's right in the middle of it right now? It's just a couple of nuggets you could kind of impart to them.
I would say through, having to manage the estate, my mother's estate, it forced me to step out of the day-to-day and trust in my people to run things. So I guess it showed that, it encouraged me to be more work more on the business and less in the business. So I was able to develop people to take things over, and was a mixed blessing. I mean, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened. The Colorado Springs store is doing better than it ever had, as we've got a great gal that's running day-to-day operations and has been with us for 15 years now?
Like 20.
Yeah.
It goes fast.
But
Time
it's
flies.
so it was a rough period, but it's allowed me to step aside and do things like We Rock and crazy ministry stuff.
That's amazing. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I've noticed about both of you over the years, because we've been friends for so many. I want to pick your brain about two of them, though, today. I have like a giant list of things that I admire about you both, and I think is awesome about you. The first one is just the spirit of generosity that you carry. I'd like you to talk about that as it relates to your employees, customers, the way that you serve in nonprofits, financial giving, that type of stuff. I'll kind of coach you through it, but I'd love to hear your perspective about the spirit of generosity that you operate in with your employees.
We really just followed a foundation that was set by Lance's parents and by our heritage. My family didn't have means. My grandparents, on one side, were sharecroppers in Nebraska. My parents were the first generation on either side of their parents to own their own home. And my grandma never owned her own home. And she worked in nonprofits. She was part of the R Center there in Longmont, Colorado. And so I came from that giving background of, if you had two of something, you gave one away. And Lance's parents were kind of the same. His dad was from Kansas and his mom was from Colorado. And they just always were employees weren't just employees, they were family. And so if somebody had a struggle, you tried to help them through that. If somebody was in need, you did what you could. When Lance's mother passed away, the number of people that came up to us and told us of generous acts that she had done that we had no clue, things that have changed people's lives that, she and we really try to do that, as the Bible says, to give in secret and just to, help where you can. And it's, we feel like if God has blessed us so much that it's really, our purpose is to pay that forward.
That's amazing. I love what you said there. I wanted to highlight it in case anybody's taking notes that, and correct me if I don't say this just right, Tammy, but you said something like, our perspective is that our employees, we look at them like family. So if they have needs, we just jump in and help. That is such a generous perspective. And I've got some family members that they're difficult. And even in difficulty, I still want to help them. So you might have some employees that makes you want to pull your hair out from time to time. But I love that perspective of employees aren't just people that work for you, that they're family. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
I'm curious. Go ahead.
We've had employees that we've had for 30, 40 years. I mean, if you invest in people and help them be the best that they can be, they help lift you. And Lance is big into having, they're not just an employee, they're a shareholder, they're part of the business, and give them reasons, they succeed as you succeed. So, it's that team effort.
Yeah, we have a very low turnover, and I think average tenure is probably 15 years.
Goodness gracious. That's amazing. Okay. So that spirit of generosity just helps create that foundation where people want to stay in that environment because you're thinking about ways to bless them rather than take from them. Brilliant. How's that spirit of generosity transferred over to your customers?
We've had because we've got, cash flow and we're not tied to debt. We have some flexibility in granting credit. So, we don't act foolishly, but as long as the customer's communicating with us, we'll work with them and, during hard times. And we've done that through the years. It hasn't always worked out for us, but we're called to forgive. And we've had to do that a lot.
Yeah, more than once.
But we treat the customers with respect, and our employees take care of our customers. We take care of our employees, and it just trickles down through to our customers, and it's built a great relationship of trust through the years.
That's amazing. Another thing that I love about you guys is the perspective of servant leadership that you have. I've seen this as we've volunteered together for different nonprofits. Like the way that I met you guys, obviously, nobody else or few other people know this, but we're doing that music festival, and you guys just jumped in with passion and in just pouring out your heart and pouring out hours and your expertise and your insight and your finance, and just we were just all pulling together to pull this thing off. And we saw that in you, both of you, over and over again, this servant leadership thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would never ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do. But also, when developing a business, I like to experience every little aspect of the business so that I can speak into it. I know what to set for expectations for people. I know what they're dealing with, firsthand.
And serving, others has just always been something, we felt called to do. And the Beatitudes is one of my favorite scriptures. And, it's very clearly laid out that we're supposed to help. We're supposed to help those in need, the widows, the orphans. You just never know whose life you're going to touch. And I always feel like God puts you in a position and in a time with a plan, and you're supposed to not just observe, but to engage and to help.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. One of the things that we were talking about earlier was just this idea of I'm going to help others without expecting something in return. That's that servant leadership mindset. I'm just trying to be helpful and add value. I've seen you guys do that so beautifully over the years. And then, Lance, you said something about just recognizing the value of people in your life that are keeping you on track and in check. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, and I think, people tend to, I guess in various industries, we all happen to experience users, if you will. And I challenge myself to constantly reevaluate my own value in a relationship. And relationships, I guess look at the value of my own value primarily, not so much what somebody can do for me. But what do I bring in a relationship?
That's good. And Tammy, when we were talking offline, you said that part of the servant leadership concept is understanding I am a Christian in business. I don't have a Christian business. I'm a Christian in business. And those values permeate through. And so you said, what we try to do is show with our action that we are followers of Jesus. Then you made an interesting comment about so many times you'll run into people of faith and how they act. And I'd like you to unpack that just a little bit.
We've never, obviously our music ministry, we're into Christian music. So that one is more identified that way. But at Johnstone, we were Christians doing business. And we would, over the years I've encountered, and some of the people that we had been biggest taken advantage of were people who really, had the fish on their work van or something like that, where they're just really putting it out there, but that their walk was not showing what they were projecting. I always hoped that that people would know by our acts and our deeds where our walk was with the Lord. And, we would talk to people, but I am always weary of, putting that you're a Christian business on your truck door. Boy, that's like saying that you're a teacher of the word and you better lead people correctly and not to be, causing damage, we legit had a customer that thought we should just forgive all his debt because he was a brother in Christ, when this guy was a serial bank. He would every 7 years declare bankruptcy, and that was his MO of doing business. But he tried to play on the fact that that was how he identified. And I just think that so many of us are doing it well that, we need to encourage others to, boy, you make sure you're walking that walk, not just saying it. You can't do underhand business deals with people, but say that, well, I go to church on Sunday and I'm a great Christian.
Until Monday morning.
Yeah.
Monday. I'm sure that's probably not the norm. Those are probably outliers, like, those times when people are putting a fish or a cross or something like that on their deal. But you're right. You said something interesting there, in that if you're going to include those icons in your marketing, you better step up to the plate, man, because people are holding you to extra high expectations. And so I think that as all of us, as followers of Jesus in business or as leaders, that idea is something that we should kind of root back down into and even examine our lives, going, okay, if I'm talking the talk, I do need to walk that walk. So thanks for saying that.
It's a little bit like, having the symbol on your car and then getting road rage.
Exactly.
That car, because lead by example.
And if you look closely, we do have a cross in our logo. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I've started about 10 businesses over the years. Some of them went fairly well, some of them did not. But several years ago, I heard this phrase, business as ministry. I was really intrigued by that, so I started leaning into it and learning a bunch about that concept. Can you talk to us a little bit? I know we've covered some of this, but maybe there's something additional that you'd like to say. I'd like to hear your perspective on doing business as ministry.
We Rock Entertainment was primarily started as a ministry, and I think we stepped into this ministry first, and with profit is second to ministry. We're blessed to have the resources to do this without profit. In fact, we'd probably be better off filing as a 501c3, but it's we feel the calling to pay it forward and deliver the message of Christ through the music. And we run this as a business, but.
Mm-hmm. And even in our main business with Johnstone over the years, it's a for-profit business and it's done us well, but we've always, even through the business, tried to, follow that tithe mentality, that pay it forward, and, help people where we can. Operation Homefront, we have them based out of our Colorado Springs location. We give them free office space because it was a need they had, and that was a way that we could give back to the veterans in the community by, it wasn't anything, huge for us, but we had space. We're like, move on in, come on, be our tenant.
And we don't do it for the recognition, but
no, but those small ways, it doesn't always have to be big ways that you help. We've, over the years, Lance has given away furnaces. A customer will come to us and be, there'll be a hardship situation, or our church will reach out and somebody will be in a hardship. And we just glad and blessed that we can help. So no matter what your business is, there's always opportunities that you can just help pay it forward.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff. I'm curious about your transition from full-time work at Johnstone into, into We Rock Entertainment. I know that there was the estate stuff that was happening for you guys and all that stuff, but did that feel like one of those classic success to significance type of transitions? And did one feel more significant than the other? I'm just wondering about that tension in you as you were transitioning from Johnstone.
It was rough, and it was through the loss of my mother that kind of forced me to step back and evaluate my purpose, and that was tough. But I felt the calling, in music. Being a musician myself, had the passion, having the business acumen to do something about it. I felt that strong pull to make a difference in delivering the message. And I think you're frozen, Dave. Take it away. As Dave is frozen.
Or we're frozen.
You guys are just fine.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Yep, Dave's froze. So anyway, gosh, you want to finish that up?
Yeah, and it was, I guess, our transition to here is that God always is changing our purpose or our direction. As one thing came to maturity, a business that's 60 years old, it was really at its maturity, and in our 50s, we weren't ready to retire and sit on a beach, even though I did vote for that option.
I say that all the time. Sitting on a beach is not a purpose. But it is not a purpose. And I'm sure you've heard me say that as well, Dave. But
I really wanted to try it just for like 6 months.
But blessed to have, my sister overseeing the day-to-day at Johnstone, and she's, giving me the latitude to, serve in ministry. I still communicate and am involved indirectly with various projects and such.
All business is about every day you're in touch with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then even ProSec, my buddy Rob Semroska, we're business partners in that, and he oversees the day-to-day, and I'm just blessed that he doesn't require a whole lot of my time. But,
yeah, that's good. In all of that transition, where did you sense God in that transition? We've kind of danced around this topic for, throughout our talk today. Not really danced, we've addressed some of it, but specifically in the transition into We Rock, as you're getting that why, you're doing some deep work on your why. And where did you sense God in that? Was he just like, hey, I'm with you? Was there a sense of excitement? What was happening for you?
There was moments of excitement as things would happen. And it's, I guess, kind of my story of how we got into it, indirectly through Heaven Fest. We were involved with Heaven Fest through various levels of leadership through the years, and the last 2 years was part of the board of directors. And but through relationships there, namely Andy Garcia, he introduced me to some folks out in Nashville, as this girl that grew up in our church had got a degree in vocal performance and came out here and was needing some help. And so Andy set us up for lunch with this guy that he'd worked with in the biz, and he turned me on to Mike Smith. He's a longtime artist manager and has been my mentor for many years. And just those opportunities. I mean, that wasn't my intention originally. It was just we were looking to help Maddie with her career, and as we kept working our way in, it was obvious that this was our purpose. It was our calling.
It's a lot of faith and trust in God, which I don't mean to say that lightly, because I don't like change. I like the same a lot. And
that's why she's still married to me.
That's right. But when God puts something on your heart, especially repetitively, over and over and over, sometimes, he just doesn't quit putting it there and speaking to you on it, to take that leap and then trust that he will show you a path.
That's good. We've got about 5 minutes left. There's some questions that I am kind of frothing at the mouth to ask. Okay, Lance, you and I have talked about how important it is to build systems and processes in your business toward being able to sell it maybe in a 3 to 5 year span. If somebody is going to make an attempt to do that, even if they don't plan on selling their business, what have you noticed about the power of building systems and processes? I guess either one of you could answer that question, but I'm just curious about your passion in that area.
Well, through the years, and I guess as I stepped out of Johnstone, was blatantly obvious that And I guess even as I took over, it was obvious that we had to have processes to make things duplicatable and productive.
As a husband and wife team, and I think even like a family business, it's kind of like making the soup. Well, you always know how to make the soup, Mom. Somebody wants to make your soup. Well, what's the recipe? Well, I don't know. We never had a recipe. And so, as you're growing your business, it's easier to get those things in place, the processes, it gives your employees clear expectations. It just helps to have the guidance to know, and to the evaluation of what's working, what's not working. Mm-hmm. If you don't really have a plan or the foundational bones in place, then it's really easy to, well, we did work this month, we must be making money. And really, you break down the nuts and bolts of it, and it's like, well, we really just worked for free this month and we owe money. So
isn't she great?
Processes are key.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so good. That's great insight. What resources have inspired you in creating systems and processes in business? Like, I'm talking books, people, mentors, that type of stuff.
Well, most recently, I think I've talked to you about Chuck Blakeman. Mm-hmm. Chuck Blakeman wrote a couple of books. I guess the one that comes to the top of my mind is Making Money is Killing Your Business. Mm-hmm. And that challenges you to grow a business to maturity in 3 to 5 years, to where you're not a component. And that's, that was really kind of the, really talks about building processes and people and culture.
Okay, great. I think maybe we can get somebody to chuck in the chat comment there in Zoom. Chuck Blakeman, example of that book, Making Money is Killing Your Business. That'd be an interesting one to look into, I think, that Lance would recommend. Okay, how has this pandemic affected Johnstone? Has it like big impacts, minimal impacts?
It's been a big impact. So with everybody stuck at home, I think they're realizing that they're missing their air conditioning at their office. And so there's been a big surge of air conditioning installs. One of the challenges is that the manufacturers can't keep up, especially with the slowdowns in production because of COVID, because of, parts, components that, a lot of them come from overseas or up from Mexico. So that's been a big challenge. Processes, we've had to alter our processes in the stores and how we do business with, curbside pickup and online ordering and
keeping our employees safe. So, all of the things you're seeing all over the country.
The plexiglass and
right.
And, spacing out our employees in workspace. I don't have an office now because I had to give it up to, an employee so that we could distance, or they could distance.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We were blessed that most of our businesses, well, at least a couple of them they were essential. So we had to figure out, hit the ground running on how to keep the employees safe and help our customers going. And, keep going. And we'll continue to do that into the fall. People can live without air conditioning, but they don't in Colorado anyway, but they really don't want to live without heat this winter. Yeah. So we're making sure that, our inventory is such and that we're that
our people are healthy and taken care of. Sec is, continues to thrive. We did have to, set some, shorten the hours for some folks, but we have yet to lay anyone off. But again, it's one of the essential businesses. Now, the entertainment industry, on the other hand, has been quite challenged. We do artist management, and obviously they can't be, a big component of their income is performing live. Right. There's no live events. And so, so they're all at home writing and wanting to record. So it's kind of a strange thing that we decided to buy a recording studio a year ago against my better judgment. but the studio has been pretty busy with a lot of video events and recording. So Again, we were able to find our place.
Make lemonade out of those lemons.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So glad you were able to find ways to pivot in both of those deals. We'll be praying for both of those businesses as well as ProSec too. We're just going to close with this final question. If you had like one or two pieces of advice to hand over to business owners in a difficult economic season, what would they be?
Take a risk. Take risk. There will be failures, but learn from your failures and just don't take the catastrophic risks. You gotta
little risk.
Calculated risks. But be bold.
That's good. Lance and Tammy, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing some of your stories with us, your insights. I had some beautiful takeaways from today, and I just want to thank you for your friendship. Really appreciate you guys. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.